5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 150, then a right 6 over crest, very long 70.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here at Stage 8 for the 43rd running of STPR. My name is Tiffany Stone, Mike Shaw. Mike, it's been an epic beginning of the weekend, an epic beginning of the day, too. Walk us through what we know so far.
You know, it's been a challenging day. It's a long day, and they're still not done after this. So we're running the first long stage of the waste management. We did a short one earlier that we live streamed. And so this is one where there's going to be able to make or break a lot of time because there's a real tight sections in here that could make for a lot. It can be really rough, and they can break down. So drivers are really being cautious about this one. As far as out on the stages earlier, you know, we saw Barry McKenna had an off earlier. He's got lots of time trying to make up to try and get back on the podium, going up against Ramana Lagaman. You know, Barry's car is a lot faster, but he's been steadily trying to get that time back. We still got 3 minutes and 20 seconds to try and catch up. So quite a bit there. Well, you talked to Oliver Solberg, I think, for just a second at the end of the last stage. He's been really on it. He's leading this rally, but I think, hold on, let me check the app here, at 43.4 seconds. So he's got a good lead on David Higgins right now. But I guess there was a little bit of a change that he ended up doing in service.
Exactly. So David Higgins, after Stage 7, got a chance to talk to him. And I must say, the brakes were just glowing on everybody's vehicles. All the cars were just coming in. He said he was having a little bit of problem. He thought it was going to be his gearbox, but he's actually back in stage in the service, and they changed some gearing. So it wasn't necessarily the whole gearbox, but they changed some gearing to get ready for Stage 8.
Well, yeah, maybe that's what he is. He wants some longer, taller gears, maybe to compete with Oliver's set, maybe more similar to Oliver's setup, because we were looking at those stage times, and it was like Oliver was about 8 seconds quicker and about 4 seconds quicker, and then, 9 seconds. So these little bit that he's getting there, so maybe a little bit different gear ratio will end up helping him out to come out on top.
Exactly, and I also had a chance to talk to the guys from ODD Racing, and they said that was an amazing stage. Of course, it's a little narrow, twisty, turny, but he's like, we are hitting certain things at 120 miles per hour. That shows you what the terrain is like right now and what the stage is looking like.
Yeah, and of course, me and Joe, the camera guy, we were hiking out in the woods and ended up giving the thumbs up there. Me and Joe, we were out in the woods there at the end of Stage 7. We hiked in a little bit, and that one was, or Stage 6, and that one, the cars were just flying. I mean, you could see them just flat out for a good, just straight mile, just flat out on it before hard braking through a couple of little twisty turnies and then going through the finish. So, yeah, this is some fast stages out here. And it looked like it was drying up quite a bit. The grip looked like it was really, really good for this next run.
Exactly, and what we've been talking about for the last few days, and of course all day today, is the weather. It's getting a little bit cooler, obviously. It is getting a lot windier, and with this, obviously, some of the cars are just going to be running a little bit faster. Cooler temps run faster cars.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get a little bit more air density. That definitely helps out the turbos, so you got a little bit more power there. And also maybe a little bit less brake fade because you're going to end up having a little bit better cooling on the brakes, so all of that helps for faster times.
And we've also been talking about the tire setup. What type of tire are we going to do? The weather has been so crazy. It's been rainy, it's been dry, it's been cool. The wind's picked up, it's dried out certain things as well. And Mike, have you ever seen any difference? Has anybody talked about changing the tires?
Not really. I think, again, it's still stick with the softer compounds, maybe a medium at most. I don't think you'd want to go super hard here, except for maybe this stage. And, of course, that was David Higgins going flying over the classic jump that we've had out here for a long time for STPR. You know, this has always been kind of a fan favorite spot. We've got that new section that we were at earlier today, but this is the classic big jump that they've always had out here at the waste management stage. Wow, he must have flown. That must have been about 80 feet or something. That was a long jump. Great job by David Higgins there. He's definitely on it.
It seems like all the problems he says he was having in Stage 7 kind of fixed them before service of Stage 8 here. And like you were saying, he was just flying. And what's so great about this is obviously it's getting a little bit darker, but one of my favorite things, rally lights. So when you see those rally lights coming through, Mike, it just looks so awesome. And part of the dust is still picking up, so it's just cinematic and just a great view.
It definitely is. And, night stage is something actually a lot of the drivers have told me they'd like to see come back. It's a little hard for the volunteers and spectators to see a whole lot, but it's such a cool experience. You're out there in the woods, and all of a sudden just coming out of this sound and fury in the dark come these bright lights as they come flying by you, those big light pods on, just suddenly igniting like fireworks, seeing all the trees and everything around you, and then boom, fade off in the distance. Like you said earlier, the glowing brake rotors, they were probably doing that earlier. You just can't see them during the day. So you get to see all those little bits that you normally wouldn't see during the daytime. So yeah, night stages are the best.
And what we're talking about, we still have 2 more stages after this, so it's just going to get a little bit darker. It's going to be a little bit cooler, and it's just going to be a great view. Next, we should be having Barry McKenna come up. And with the first 4 cars, we're still having a 2-minute interval from car to car. Starting with car 5, they'll have 1 more from there.
Right, so you end up, so starting when we get to Peter Fatella, he'll be on the 1 minute, but all the cars before that, so that means David Higgins, McKenna, Ramana Lagaman, and then Oliver Solberg. All of those have a 2-minute gap between them. That just makes sure that nobody accidentally catches each other on stage if something happens. It's just kind of more of a safety issue, also kind of that dust window for these top-performing guys.
Exactly, and what I really liked seeing is Chrissy Beavis be back out here in the co-driver spot. Such a great show to see her out here.
I would think that Barry won the jump contest again. Wow. What's impressive, I mean, that was almost like what he did out there at Concord Pond. I mean, he just sailed it over there. He really wants to make up that time and get on that podium. You can tell he is pushing to the limit with that car.
Exactly, and I know you guys can't necessarily see us right now, but Barry jumped farther than we were. We try to be back a little bit to be able to see these cars hit that jump, but he hit so far back. It was ridiculous, and like you said, exactly kind of what he did at Concord Pond.
Yeah, if I was going to guess, it was 80 feet for Higgins. That was 100 feet at least for Barry McKenna, so that was pretty sweet.
Exactly. And we still have the 2-minute intervals in between everything. So next on our list should be Ramanan. And I cannot wait to see what we were talking about earlier, bringing back that classic look of the Subaru, the blue
S12.
and the gold, bringing that back. It's so great to see this.
It certainly is, especially on that specific car. Having Solberg here, and that's actually similar to a car that, he competed in back in the WRC days. So it's a WRC type spec car there. And just to have one of those out here in honor of that or whatever, it's Ramana's car, but we just love seeing it in honor of Subaru's history.
Exactly, and Petter's here obviously with his son Oliver, and when we were talking to Petter, he was just saying, Tiffany, it's so crazy, especially those two coming off of Gricana and being able to do some things like that, and he's like, I think Oliver is a little upset at me because his dad won.
Yeah, Jim Kana, that's always a fun thing. What's that? Oh, we hear Petter talking in the background. So yeah, like you said, Ramana Lagaman and Chrissy Beavis should be through here just any second. I think we hear their car approaching. Oh, so Barry was 13 seconds after David there. Oh, okay. So Barry about 13 seconds slower up to the jump. We've got Petter doing times for us up to about this point of the stage. Thank you, Petter.
Thanks, Petter. Maybe we should have you come down here and commentate with us. Petter's up there just waiting for Oliver to come through right now. But yeah, so Petter's giving us some times, and we're going to be able to see Oliver be able to come through pretty soon, and it's going to be quite a show. I got a chance to talk to Petter last night and say, hey, is it harder to be a driver or is it harder to be a dad and watch your son? He's like, it's a little bit of different. I get nervous about both because when he's in control, he's driving, he has everything, and then Oliver, it's really cool to see that father-son dynamic.
Yeah, certainly. The family, they've got that heritage, and to see how quickly that Oliver's been able to adapt and become so fast in that car. Ramana and Chrissy in that car, one thing that's they're maybe doing is the old plan of keep the car on the ground. That's where you can be on the accelerator. In the air, you can't be accelerating, right? You're going to be slowing down. So maybe a little bit different manner to try and get the fastest time on the stage.
It seems like that, and like we were talking about now, the dust is picking up just a little bit more, and with the dust picking up, obviously with the time in between, it's going to look a little crazy, and if you're checking out the weather, if you're here as well, you're going to see that the sprinkles are starting to come in. It's getting a little bit drizzly, it's getting colder, it's getting a little bit darker. As a driver that's out there, do you know that if they have a different mindset, what they're thinking about?
I think the weather's going to be pretty consistent. Oh, wow, we looks like that we've got, he's already catching.
And that goes and shows you how fast Oliver Solberg really is, because we didn't even get a chance to kind of talk in between, and he was already here.
So if that was a 2-minute dust window, look at how fast he caught up. All right, we got to ask Better. Better, what was the time, buddy? Where'd he go? He disappeared on us. But yeah, I mean, if you just ballpark, that must have been catching a minute at least on Ramana. So he is just pushing the limit. I mean, he's got the lead, but he's not going to back down. All this is just kind of learning. He knows that the championship isn't really his, but he really wants to make sure he gets the most out of that and really pushing all the time instead of get that comfortable lead and just kind of relax there. Sometimes you got to keep pushing and pushing to find your limit.
Exactly, and pushing to find the limit. He just wants to get better and better. When we were talking to him earlier as well, he just says that this makes him excited. He's excited to be out here, and obviously he's doing it on this stage.
Yeah, again, this is actually a good stage to learn on because it's got a lot of rough bits, some twisty, tight sections, and then real flat-out sections like this big jump right here where it's really straight for a good ways, but then gets in the tight, twisty stuff again. We've had many competitors. Travis Pastrana was famous for, unfortunately on this stage, crashing out many times. And this used to be the first day he used to run this stage. And, yeah, people having issues on this one because it's just so complicated.
Do you think that, obviously, this is the 43rd running of STPR, usually that we have it in June, so most of the notes and most of the weather conditions are from previous years in June. We've moved it up to September. It's getting a little bit cooler. The leaves are starting to change. That also is affecting the stages as well because the wet leaves out there are making things a little slicker.
Yeah, I think it might make a little bit of a difference, maybe with the wind blowing some of the leaves on the ground. But, after even the zero cars go through, they're going to sweep some of that clear. Peter Fatella, he's still in it for the championship. Great jump by him. He's definitely he's pushing it too. He knows his car isn't quite as fast as the Subarus and whatnot, but David Higgins makes a mistake. He could still have a chance for the championship.
Exactly, and going back to McKenna, obviously we've seen the top 5 drivers hit this jump, and McKenna still seems like he's hit it and sent it a little bit farther than everybody else.
Yeah, that was just an insane jump. And the other thing you were talking about earlier about this dust kind of starting to linger a little bit, when we get to these 1-minute dust windows now for the rest of the cars, this is where it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge, because especially in the trees, it's going to start to hang, the wind won't be there, and then you've got the lights in the dust. That's like going through fog. So that'll be another challenge where they're going to have to be more on their notes than ever.
Exactly, and going with that 1-minute time, it just also shows you whose car is a little bit faster, who's gaining, who's leading, like we did with Oliver Solberg.
Yeah, and actually, I'm looking at the times here. We heard earlier, yes, 13 seconds faster than David Higgins through this stage. Watching the app here, of course, got to make sure you download the ARA Rally app. You can see what those times are. Barry McKenna was a minute slower than Oliver.
And ODD Racing hit that just a little bit. I'm wondering what Preston was saying to Cam in his ear, because I know some days Preston's really like, okay, get on it. You're being a little flat here. So I'm not sure what Preston necessarily said or if Cam meant to do that.
Landing on the skid plate, he might have said, ow. Because that looked like it might hurt just a little bit.
It actually hurt myself, you and Mike, when we were watching that. We both kind of cringed a little bit. I'm assuming you could hear it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And just looking at some of the other times here, so McKenna has gained, it looked like, about 30 seconds on Lageman on this stage. So that's, again, him trying to get back that total of 3 minutes and 20 seconds he's got to get back on that podium. So McKenna is pushing hard.
And big shout out to McKenna and his team as well for getting that car all back together, getting it ready to be able to finish out the rest of the stages today. And like you said, the timing is not necessarily what he wants, but he keeps just pushing and pushing. And that shows you his sportsmanship, that shows you what type of driver that he is, and that also just shows you how hard he's going to push it.
Yeah, and really there wasn't a whole lot that was wrong with the car. He just went off the road and just got stuck. But what was interesting is how he got back on. It was video game style. He backed up into the woods again, put it in stage mode, and launched it back onto the road. It was pretty impressive. Martin Donnelly in the R5. That one obviously a little bit of a nosedive there, so the aero package not definitely playing well with keeping it down, but wow. He definitely gave it a look. I'd say he's about the same as Fatella. So yeah, they're kind of. I bet those two are kind of battling it out for the rest of this.
Exactly, and the wind's picking up a little bit more, the dust is lingering, and like you were talking about with the 1 minute time intervals, the dust is going to linger a little bit more there, making it harder for them to see, especially the darker that we get.
And we got another one coming already. And that was Seamus Burke and Martin Brady. They're in that four-wheel drive for the first time in a long time. They normally drive the Escort. They ended up breaking that up, unfortunately, or busting the oil pan. That made the motor go, unfortunately, at New England. So different drive for them, but they're definitely trying to get back on it. Seamus was saying that, it's just hard to get used to, that four-wheel drive after being in their two-wheel drive car for so long. All right, again, just trying to check the times here on the website. Looks like we got a little bit of a gap here before we can see the rest of these kind of refresh. But yeah, as you can say, what was the other ones I was going to talk about? Oh, we caught up with Ryan Booth, who we know he had on off. We're hoping to get the video of that in a bit later tonight. But he was sitting there next to the trailer waiting for his car to be towed off stage. Everybody's fine. Nothing's more hurt than really his pride. But, he said it's not if it's going to happen with a roll, it's when it's going to happen, which is kind of the thing that everybody knows. They rolled, it seemed like maybe two and a half times, and then ended up on their side. But they're all okay, so that's the important part. Unfortunately, they think they can maybe fix it tonight and be back out tomorrow so we can get more experience. So not going to be able to maybe get a podium or win or anything like that, but still the perseverance of that team of getting that car maybe back together. So we'll have to find out later tonight if that ends up happening.
It's always so great to talk to Ryan, especially since this is his second time in that particular vehicle and particular car. So it's always great to see how he's growing, and he's got that great smile. And I love the new design that they have, the McDonald's. I'm loving it. And I actually asked him last night at Park Expose. I said, "Hey, Ryan, what is your go-to for McDonald's?" He's like, "Honestly, Tiffany, I really like the McRib." And I'm like, "The McRib out of
yeah, it's the best
out of everything." He's like, "It only comes out 2 months out of the year, and I wait for it, but I love me some McRib." And I was like, I'm just more of a Coca-Cola and McDonald's fries type of girl.
Oh, man, I love the McRib. One of my first real job other than working in the fields as a kid was working at a McDonald's. And when that came out, it was great. Actually, I think I worked when it first ever came out. So that shows how old I am. But no, the McRib is awesome. You got the onions, you got the pickles, the barbecue. I mean, it's great. Who doesn't like the McRib?
I don't think I like the McRib, but Ryan Booth definitely likes it, so I'm hoping that they'll be able to get the rally car all fixed up and back out, because it was so great to be able to see that, especially because I know he wants to show McKenna Motorsports exactly what he can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of hope for that kid. I think he's got a lot going for him. It was great to see also when we saw him on the side of the road. We pulled over to chat, big still smile on his face. I mean, he had just, crashed big. And he's like, yeah, all's good. He's sitting there just going through, playing with the video, trying to edit it himself, and just, having a good time, just waiting for everybody. So just such a positive attitude, and he'll definitely be back out there, I know, just pushing as hard as he can. We got a little bit of a gap here. Let's see here. So that's right, we were missing a couple of cars. We talked earlier with Paul Ferreira. I unfortunately on the way back from being out on the stages, saw him pulled on the side of the road. So that's car number 37. Him and Oscar, his co-driver, it seemed like a mechanical issue. It didn't look like there was anything busted on the car that was visible. So unfortunate for them. Ooh, sparks.
And this is exactly what we were talking about, Mike. A lot of times these things happen, but it's in such bright daylight that we never actually get to see it. So now that we're entering some of the night stages here for 8, 9, and 10, this is where we're going to be able to see a lot of different things happening, like you were talking about, the glowing of the brake rotors, a little bit of spark here when they kind of hit the nose a little bit too hard. But that's really exciting to see, and it's exciting to be able to have that joy as a driver, co-driver too, to be able to push yourself and experience something a little bit different for the stages.
And I think what's also going to be big on this is, again, those that are really good on notes. One of the guys we talked to earlier was, we were talking with Michael Hooper, and he said this is the first rally he's done ever done his own notes on. He's wanting to practice that for next year because he plans on doing more of the championship, coming out west for the first time. And we're out west, we don't do jumbo notes, so you have to write your own. We do a little class to kind of teach you how to do it, but if you haven't done it before, it's a big learning curve. So he's practicing that out here. He was pretty happy with him during the daylight, but at night, you've got to really trust him. You're not going to be able to see those grip levels as well with the lights. You need to just hear what's coming in through, from your co-driver and drive to that. It's going to be a big challenge.
Exactly, and majority of the rallies, as everybody knows, happen in national forests, logging roads, certain areas around that, and as soon as it gets a little bit darker and cooler, now we're also in September, we also have other variables such as animals coming out, bears, we also have some deer that could be out here, and I've talked to some drivers from the past, since this is the 43rd running of STPR, that back in the day when they did have some night stages, that they did see those animals out there.
Actually, and even more so, all the rallies back in the day, when they just went off route notes. You didn't have pace notes back then. They were just real general route notes like you'd use for recce. That was the entire stage notes that you'd use, and they'd run them all night long because we didn't have all this big, fast stuff back then. It was driving more to what you feel. Oh, I love the sound of that. That V6 in that Lexus with Michael Hooper. Awesome, awesome car. I'm really looking forward to see what happens with him in the championship next year. Him and Ryan Booth should really be on it. Wow, we got car after car here.
Exactly like you were just saying, Mike, we just literally had 3 cars one after another, and what we've been saying from the beginning, that 5 throughout the end of the stage, cars 5 through the end will only have a 1-minute window. So obviously either something's happening, a vehicle's slowing down, or just some are just driving a lot faster because of the cooler temps and because maybe their notes as well.
Yeah, there's some tricky sections in there where some of the drivers might want to be extra careful to try not to break the car and make sure they make it to the finish. So that's going to be another one of the challenges to deal with on this. And, of course, the other cars, they end up catching up to them. But to have 3 in a row like that, that's actually pretty unusual.
Exactly. And what I love, Mike, about how quiet it is out here in some of them, you can just hear some of these rally cars from miles away. We can hear when they start, and we can pretty much time out when they're going to hit this jump, which is quite exciting. And it's just getting darker and darker, and we're seeing more rally lights, which, Mike, now those are my faves.
Yeah, the rally lights are a pretty cool thing for sure. Just going to kind of look at some of the stage times here. We have where Martin Donnelly, he ended up being about 2 minutes 30 seconds back. Let's see if we can look at some of the other classes here. There we go. Kramer and Smith, so they're definitely pushing it there in the naturally aspirated 4-wheel drive. Now, funny thing, the naturally aspirated class is actually an open class, and if I remember right, they actually put in a 6-cylinder engine in that car. You can actually fit the Subaru 6-cylinder in the Impreza chassis, barely, but it can fit. Just no turbo. It's naturally aspirated, but you can kind of do whatever you want within those specs, and I believe that's what they're running in that car. That's why it sounded maybe a little bit different than some of the other Subarus. Okay, and as we saw there, that was Eric Potts. He ended up going by a different co-driver for this event because Claudia's sitting with sitting next to Michael Hooper, so a little bit different. But yeah, it looks like we're going to try and get a few more in here right after this break.
Welcome back, everybody. We've had a handful of cars, about 10. We're going to get our next one coming through the jump.
Yeah, car number 491. Let's see here. We got O'Sullivan and Kelly. Yeah, they've got another one of those Evos out here. They've been having a pretty consistent run. I haven't had a chance to talk to them yet, but I was kind of looking at the times, and they're just kind of sitting you might call it no man's land, but I mean, they know these roads here. They want to just make sure they're a little extra careful, don't want to, bust anything up and let other people crash, and, they can maybe make up that time.
Well, when we're looking at it, obviously, Oliver Solberg is still at the top of that, and then David Higgins is just 13 seconds behind him.
Yeah, so even though he put in that different gearbox, or sometimes they do that to change gearing. They'll just swap the entire gearbox. Sometimes that's easier to get that different ratio. And, yeah, still 13 seconds slower, so Oliver's still pushing it to the limit. We said that earlier that he doesn't need to. He's got the lead, but he's still going to keep pushing so he can learn everything that he can about making sure he's always on the limit as he works his way up to, who knows, maybe be a world championship like his dad. That's Emmanuel Keshet and Mike Willard that went by. They're in the limited four-wheel drive class. They're entered in regionally, so there's a good regional championship going on there. It'll be interesting to who ends up overall there, because we saw the first of those cars that were catching up to the back of Potts was Mark Piakowski, and him and Adi Montopoulos were really pushing it hard. They said they're getting more and more comfortable with the speed out here. They know their car isn't as powerful as maybe some of the others, but they really thought that they could push that limit and make sure they carry more speed through the corners and see where they ended up. They were first overall in regional at New England, so they're hoping to do the same here.
And watching them at stage 4, they were just impeccable through those apexes and those hairpin turns.
Okay, Eric Kurse and what was that, Sean McAlear end up coming through on that one. I think they're on the horn there, just knowing that there's the fans out here watching. You get that sometimes. I know I was looking at Amanda Skelly and her co-driver, was it Freeze? Amanda Freeze? Or sorry, Amanda Skelly and Sarah Freeze.
Sarah
there
Freeze.
we go. Get the names figured out here. Anyways, they actually have horn buttons that on both sides of the car, so they can hit them whenever they're at the spectator area.
And honestly, those two are some of my favorite drivers, because Sarah is a rally pup lover like I am, and so it was so great to be able to see that. And she's just a great co-driver, and seeing those two together, and I just really, really love what they've done with their cars right now.
Yeah, they got the neon lights and everything. I'm curious when they come by if you can actually see the neon lights under the car while they're racing it. We've seen it kind of when they're in like Park Expo and stuff, but is something turned on for the racing stages? I hope so.
I hope so, and if they do, you're going to hear me get a little bit more excited, because I, of course, love rally lights. Coming from the Jeep world, we have rock lights, so they're similar to us, but a little bit different, but they just make everything look so much brighter, so much nicer, and especially, Mike, going through this jump right now, it is going to probably illuminate everything.
Yeah, indeed. We got another one coming. Looking through the list here, I think, hold on just a second, I think that was Kevin Allen and Elizabeth Cordara, the 330 car. It's getting harder and harder to see the car numbers this late at night. It's getting definitely darker and darker out here. But yeah, you're right. Those having the light bars on the car definitely adds a new flavor to watching rallying.
And especially, it's a great view for the spectators that we have right here at stage 8 with us. They're being able to see us. They're actually braving the cold weather with us, the chills, the winds, the sprinkles of the rain. But what's really cool is this jump is giving those spectators a great show here for the 43rd running of STPR.
Well, and that's part of the adventure. Rallying isn't for the folks that want to sit in a nice warm stadium and things like that. Oh, heck no. This is for the people that are the outdoors people, the people who like to have adventure. That's what our sport is really about. You got to come out here, yeah, brave the weather a little bit, but you see some amazing action you just won't see anywhere else, and in such a beautiful setting. That was Fabio Costa with Boyd Smith. I said earlier, Boyd Smith is new to sitting next to Fabio, but he's got a lot of rallying experience. And I noticed that Fabio actually was moved up in the start order a little bit because he is just that quick. So he'll be one of those going for the naturally aspirated four-wheel drive overall or natural aspirated class win in the Nationals.
Yeah, no, I love being able to see him. He's always so cheerful, so joyful when we're especially talking to him, and to know that he's just getting faster and faster. And I've always said, when you win, that breeds confidence, and that makes you push yourself a little bit more. Once you have that confidence, you really push yourself. You know what your rally car can do. You know what you can do. And now having that last piece, it comes all together, and that's where we see things like Oliver Solberg just pushing, pushing, pushing.
Yeah, and, like I said, Fabio, he's such a more relaxed guy, too. He doesn't really let anything really get to him. He's just really having a lot of fun. And when you have fun, you're fast. If you just don't let that stress get to you, I know you want to be quick, but if you can just not have that stress kind of eat you up, that'll definitely help you be a little bit quicker out there.
Well, and that also goes to show you how important co-drivers are as well. Talking to Preston Osborne, who is Cam Seeley's co-driver from ODD Racing, he says, Tiffany, we have some code words. We have some little tricks. You know, if Cam's in his head, I know what to do to get him out of there. And he's also one who does superb notes on recce, even with his tabs, he tells me.
A little bit of missing body work there, and I'm trying to remember who that. I think that was Nick Balzer and Mike Brown. Yeah, I think that's who that was. Yeah, those cars are just pushing real hard out there, so much that they lose a little bit of fender.
It seems like that.
You were talking about co-drivers earlier, and you know, one of the things about those stage notes that can be really interesting again is those drivers really trying to figure it out in the night. The co-driver has to see the notes with a little pen light that's usually up inside the cabin there. So that's all shaking around while the car is shaking around. You got to see those notes while they're going ultimate flat out here in the dark. So it's always a big challenge. And that's Jordan Guitar. It's nice to see him back out here. We haven't seen Jordan and Zach in a little while. They last competed in Oregon, so it's good to see that car fixed up and back out rallying. So he said he's shaking the cobwebs off a little bit, but you know he's always going to be pushing.
Well, and especially when these guys come out from the West Coast to the East Coast and vice versa, a lot of these stages are a little bit different. Some are similar, but some are different, obviously based on the topographical area that we're in. With these ones being so narrow and tight, is there anything that would be comparable on the West Coast that he would be familiar with?
You know, there's certain areas, definitely. You know, getting maybe some of the looser rock stuff, that would be familiar to Olympus. You get into the flat-out open stuff, that's going to be like Oregon Trail. So, yeah, you can always adapt a little bit from what other rallies have when it comes to, you know, the different stages out here. If there was something that I'd say similar to some of the flat-out stuff out here, it's probably 100 Acre Wood. That's probably the closest one I would say, except for the fact it's more narrow. So you got to make sure you're on the right driving line. The other thing that you got to worry about is the crown of the road here. The crown means everything. The roads here are made very much to be able to drain off. Well, you get on the wrong side of that crown, and the car is going to slide right off, whether it's wet or dry.
Exactly. Well, I'm really glad to be able to see the differences in what you've talked about. Certain stages and certain rallies that we go to reminded a lot of people of Finland too. So it's really cool to see all of these different things, especially in this PA area, that make it so nice that you can go from one stage to the next. And what we were talking about, even stage 4 at waste management, you go 100 yards, it's completely different than what you were just driving on.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most complex stages that they have in the entire loop of stuff that they do. So some rocky, twisty stuff, and then some real flat-out fast stuff. All right, well, as we're starting to lose the light here, we're going to make sure that, yeah, we're not going to be able to get any more cars in here, just that we just don't have the lighting for it. So we're going to get one more. All right, we're going to try and get one more car through here, and here it comes right now. All right, well, good luck to the rest of the competitors tonight. We're going to get some updates for you. Make sure you download the app, follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. You know, there's going to be all the information of what's going on with this rally there. Good luck to everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.
You wish you could drive like this? Well, you can at Dirtfish. Get behind the wheel of an all-wheel drive Subaru WRX STI or rear-wheel drive Subaru BRZ in our 12 different rally courses. Learn to control a car like never before on any surface, in any condition. We have the programs for every level of driver. What are you waiting for? Visit dirtfish.com.
What's going on, guys? Kevin from Injuku again. Just want to give a huge shout out to the guys at Amsoil for picking me up, taking me part of the team. Also want to give them a big shout out and thank you for coming out with these super awesome pouches that they use for their gear oil. It makes doing the transmission fills, differential fills super easy. Can literally just kind of fold the bag, squish the bag however you need to, and just kind of, once you get the end into the actual fill port of the transmission, you can just flip it upside down, squeeze everything in there. There's no mess, there's no drip, and it just makes life super easy.
Your bearing bearings shoulder the burden whenever you tow, haul, or stomp the gas. AMSOIL delivers powerful protection for bearings and other critical components so you can drive with confidence. To demonstrate, an independent lab put AMSOIL synthetic motor oil head-to-head against a leading competitor in a 100,000-mile test. AMSOIL provided far superior wear protection and kept engine bearings looking like new. Get your truck the protection it deserves at amsoil.com/auto.
Take your driving to the next level at Dirtfish. Gain confidence behind the wheel of an all-wheel drive Subaru STI or rear-wheel drive BRZ. Get sideways with skills on gravel, mud, and tarmac. Dirtfish offers programs for every driver. Visit dirtfish.com for details.